Hello and welcome to the Hospitality Twins podcast. I'm Jerry Reyes.
And I'm Ramon Reyes. Tourism offers us an opportunity to visit new places and experience new and exciting attractions.
But it's the people within the hospitality industry that make these experiences unique and memorable.
We look forward to shedding light on the talented people who make the hospitality industry special.
And also to providing coaching and career tips to those seeking to join our industry. We are excited to welcome Joi Alexander to this week's episode of the Hospitality Twins podcast. She serves as Regional Catering Sales Manager for Cava. So welcome to the podcast, Joi.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, guys. This is really exciting and looking forward to our dialogue today.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we were chatting right before the podcast, and Jerry and I are both equally impressed with your background and your story. You have an extensive background in hospitality, but what's really interesting is that you've worked in sort of a variety of subsectors within the industry, both on the sports side and in the hotel side and catering as well. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in hospitality and what you do today.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like I started in the business so long ago and so much has changed. I started working about 20 years ago and was actually introduced to hotels through a family friend of mine. And as naive as it sounds, I never even knew that there was like an events and a sales department within a hotel. I just thought you go there for rooms and that's where you sleep and lodge and that sort of thing. So she was like, no, she said the Lowe's Hotel was in Washington, D.C. And she said, they're looking for a catering admin. And I was like, okay, well, I was right out of college or getting ready in my last year of school. And I said, well, I'll apply because I wanted to stay in DC. And I'll kind of talk about my college. I went to Howard University for undergrad and then went to George Washington University to get my MBA. So I wanted to stay in DC. I didn't want to go back to South Carolina where I grew up. So I got the job and started working as an admin for a couple of months. And then there was an opportunity for me to be what was called back then a catering express sales manager for the Omni Shoreham Hotel, which was the second largest property in DC. And I went for an interview, and my director of sales at the time, who was still my mentor to this day, Sheila Hessian, who's now the director of sales at the MGM at the new National Harbor, I believe, in DC. Mm-hmm. She hired me on the spot. She said, you have what it takes. I can train you I can teach you how to do everything else. She's like, you have the personality and I think you'll do well in this industry. And literally, guys, that's kind of how my career started. I was an admin at Lowe's L'Enfant Plaza Hotel, then worked my way into a express sales manager, which was selling small group rooms and like small events for 50 to 75 people at the Omni Shoreham. And from there, I've exceeded and just worked in pretty much every brand except for Hyatt in senior management level positions. And then obviously going over into the sports and entertainment world, and now landing with Cava, which is a fast casual restaurant brand that is taking over the Northeast and the West Coast. I am their regional catering sales manager, and I oversee catering throughout the entire country for about a little over 111 restaurants. Just some back end about Cava. They acquired Zoe's Kitchen back in 2018. So essentially we have two brands under our portfolio. So I, represent the catering world and manage all those catering sales for those 100 plus restaurants and fast casual dining across the nation. So been with them a little over a year, started in February of last year. And then COVID happened, but I was furloughed and came back. So I've been back on the team since June of last year and really loving the role, loving my team, and excited to see what's in store for the rest of this year.
Wow, that's fantastic. I had no idea you had worked for Omni. Obviously, that's my home. And, the Shoreham in particular was the location where I interviewed for my very first Omni position because I happened to be in DC at the Liaison Hill there. I rebranded that hotel. But you've got an exciting story, and I'm surprised to hear you say that they said that you had everything it took in terms of personality to be in this industry, because I can sense it just by hearing you talk about your experience and how you've come up in the industry. Exciting to hear, and I'm impressed to hear that you've started off as an admin and now oversee fast casual for Cava for the entire country. That's pretty amazing.
Definitely super exciting. It was an industry that I've always been in food and beverage in a sense from a catering standpoint, whether it was in the hotel side or whether it was at the stadium or now with Kava. But it's just a different lane for me in the sense of more restaurant, fast casual catering and what we would consider off-premise catering versus on-premise catering, which would be obviously your hotels and venues and things of the like. So it's exciting, it's different, but it is, I feel like a sector that can be, cross-trained. If you do one well, you can do the other one well too. So I've been enjoying it, and it's exciting because, as a matter of fact, Kava doesn't actually have catering or doesn't offer catering right now at the moment. Only Zoe's Kitchen does. However, that's going to be changing soon, which will be a whole new umbrella of revenue, which will be great for the company, but a whole new sector that we'll have to put into our plan of
that's got to be exciting for you, because if it doesn't exist today, that means you're part of sort of curating that and putting that together, right?
Absolutely. We are on weekly calls because we have been in the process of converting Zoe's Kitchens nationwide to Kava. So there still will be a small footprint of Zoe's Kitchens throughout the nation. But you know how acquisitions go. They came in and they wanted to, obviously make it one family and kind of do some rebranding. So the Kavas that will be taking over as, new Kava restaurants will eventually have catering. And the Zoe's Kitchens that we currently have that will not be converting will continue to push out off-premise catering for our sales division.
Wow, that's fantastic. You just going back to your role, your start off as an admin. I have said this before, but there's so many people that fall into our industry and then fall in love with it. And it seems like that's what happened, with you as well. Just really not necessarily considering hospitality or hotels and catering at the time, but then eventually falling into it. Would that be sort of an accurate statement for you too?
Definitely, hands down. I don't know what else I would be doing right now if I wasn't doing what I was. And I say that with true sincerity, because even in times where I've thought about getting out, I get sucked right back in and get pulled right back in. So it's definitely something that I have just developed a love for. And I think when you work in it so long, you know kind of what to expect, but you also know how to overcome those challenges and things like that would, make someone want to say, what, I want to do something different. You know how to figure out and maneuver through that as well.
Wow. Well, congrats on your your track record. I mean, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And, I like to ask this question too. This in general, when you think about how you started and that path, that journey that you took, what benefits would you say you gained in terms of starting as an admin and learning sort of that side of the business and working your way up? Because it's evident that you proved yourself. You made the people around you sort of feel obligated to give you a shot and say, hey, this person has so much more potential to do so much more. But you did sort of pay your dues and work your way up quite a bit. What sort of resonates with you when you think back to those 20 years and how you got your start? What do you think has made you more successful today based upon how you began your journey?
I try to look at things, in twofold. And I've always been a big believer that relationships are so key in this industry. And I think in all industries, essentially, but I think in our industry, relationships and developing relationships and keeping those relationships is what is key. I had a mentor tell me a long time ago, it's not about who you know, but who knows you. And I stick to that. I mean, I say that to my sales team. I say that to my friends. I say that to my mentees, because I do mentor some young ladies. That's a big key component for me. And I think that over the years, I've just really kind of put my best foot forward in everything that I've done. I've gotten better at challenging things that I probably would not have challenged in my younger years of being in this industry. But that's something I can definitely say is, definitely moving forward and being very positive, putting the best foot forward I can put, and then just pushing myself and being resilient. I've outside of, just everything, we all go through different situations in our lives, but nothing is just 100% great all the time. So when you have to go through challenges and being resilient, just really kind of strive to know what your future goals are, what your end goals are. I used to tell my dad, that I was going to do a Super Bowl one day. I used to say that when I was, right out of college and wasn't able to get that big break job that I wanted. And I would, get so defeated sometime or have this defeated attitude about it. But he was like, you will, you just got to keep pushing forward. And I did Super Bowl in Atlanta in 2019. Yeah. So everything, I think you kind of have to, I always say the power of the tongue is really incredible. So you have to make sure that you
very true
speak things into existence sometimes versus, having a defeatist attitude about things.
Well, I love it. I love your passion. It comes through. And again, not surprised to hear and just see your success.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, and I echo that as well, Joi. And I have our next question here, but I have a little bit of a follow-up to Ramon's question there as well. And you talked about fast casual, and what popped into my head, I was curious, what have you seen so far that's been kind of the skills that you learned on the hotel side that have been most kind of applicable or beneficial to what you're doing today?
It's funny you say that, B. I would definitely say that I've actually transcended a lot of the sports world and the sports sales piece over to my team because during the pandemic, and we just came out of a really rough patch where sales were at its lowest and we had no team members and everyone was furloughed and that sort of thing. So now that we've been back post-pandemic, we've been really trying to pivot to what our normal sales approach would be. Zoe's Kitchen was not really known for targeting sports and college and athletics and things of that nature from a sales off-premise catering side of things. But me knowing the sports world and knowing kind of how teams and conferences move and things of that nature, I was able to bring that piece over to the pie and say, hey, we have to really target a market segment that's not truly being impacted as we started seeing things open up within the post-COVID world. Sports are coming back, right, and college teams are playing and stadiums are at full capacity now and so forth. So we had to pivot and go that route, which again was a driving factor for us in revenue because we have never seen that much revenue from a market segment like that. It's always never went after sports. So I think kind of just bringing new ideas and fresh ideas to the table from a on-premise catering perspective and knowing what clients are coming to the stadium to do events and knowing which clients are going to the hotel to have events, whether it be social or corporate, and just being able to educate my team on how we should sell differently in times like this.
Right. Well, I could see definitely, I mean, as you were saying it, I could picture it. There's so many transferable skills and definitely what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what their needs are, and being able to have them come in the door with that reassurance that you're going to make sure things go flawlessly for them because it, I'm sure is something that is a benefit to Cava overall as well.
Absolutely. Definitely.
I'm going to jump. I know, Jerry, your question's coming up, but I have a follow-up too.
All right, go ahead.
And I'm sorry, because, but this is a great conversation. And I'm
absolutely.
Thinking about, I love the comment that you made about, mentoring. I love the fact because you have such a great story and it could be so inspiring to so many different people. And the comment that you made resonated with me because I went through this session, Black executive leadership session with McKinsey. And one of the things that they talked about was getting yourself in traffic. That was a term that they use, or the phrase that they use, get yourself in traffic. And the whole premise behind it is obviously to get out there and challenge yourself, but also get noticed. And as we've been fortunate, all three of us, to sort of elevate our careers, we always want to reach back and bring some folks with us, but we look for them to get themselves in traffic too. Show us what you have and stand out in many ways. So I guess for me, it's more of a comment and really just acknowledgement that it seems like you've done a great job at really mentoring people, but also focusing on telling them, hey, you need to get yourself in traffic so you get noticed and also you gain that experience along the way.
Absolutely. You could not have said it better. I think, I wish that 20 years ago I had a me that was like someone I could call and, vent to or, get some insight on. And as much as I don't give myself enough credit, I need to do that better. I need to do a better job at doing that. But there's so many, younger girls that that reach out to me on LinkedIn and someone told someone to talk to me. A lot of my line sisters, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And a lot of my line sisters and sorors are like, I told so-and-so to call you, Joi, because they're trying to get into the hospitality industry and they don't know what to do. And, so it's good to be able to talk to these younger women and give them some advice and just kind of help them figure out how to get their foot in the door, but also once you get in the door, you got to stay in the door. You got to stay in the room some kind of way. So, and like you said, putting yourself out there and doing a little bit more than just, I'm here, I got here because Joi, vouched for me type of thing. Whereas my name's on the line now. So now that you're in the door, let's see what you can, now you got to sell yourself, so that's super important.
We've been talking about this and you kind of answered this already, but I'm going to ask it. You've seen obviously success on both sides. You've seen it in hotels, you've seen it with sports, with catering, all of the different roles that you've held have played into that success. And but what do you feel has contributed most to your success over the years and afforded you the opportunity to have seen this continued growth?
I can definitely say that the relationship piece. And I know I talked about that a little bit earlier, but just to kind of go a little bit deeper with me, I think that building relationships with people has been important for me because it's a big part of who I am and what I stand for. I think when you're in sales and you're in a sales role or a service role, hospitality role, people buy from who they like. If they like you, they'll buy from you, they'll patron and that sort of thing. So I've always just been a firm believer of developing those relationships, maintaining the relationships, and really doing a lot of networking. I mean,
right.
I reached out to you, Raymond, about I don't know if you remember, but I wanted to come to the hotel for Easter brunch. When you guys
I remember.
Right, and there were no reservations, so I was like, let me just reach out. Maybe there's a possibility that I could get, a reservation. And it worked out perfectly. But had I not reached out to you and asked, then that relationship would not have formed. And, I extend the favor if you need a favor. So I just think with us, it's in our industry, that's how you set yourself apart. You just, you can't just back in the wind and watch. You gotta really put yourself out there. Because guess what? All people can say is no or yes.
Of course. Yeah. No,
right.
Look, and I think about in your past roles, and even it may apply some to your current role with Kava. I mean, you referenced it, so obviously it does in terms of relationships. But when you think about catering in general, all of the relationships that are involved with putting together and seeing a successful event come to completion. There's so many relationships that are involved, and you maintain those because you may use them again, or you may know not to use them again.
Absolutely.
if things don't go as planned. But definitely, I agree. Relationships are critically important. Even when you think about internally, when you think about the team that you surround yourself with, making sure that those relationships are strong. And they can lean on you just as much as you can lean on them. Those things are critically
Absolutely.
important.
I want to go back and just acknowledge, the point you made earlier, because Jerry hit on the fact that you were successful. And that's certainly something that we can tell by looking at your resume and certainly hearing you tell us about your journey and your path. But the fact that you did Super Bowl, and I know you mentioned you told your dad you were going to do Super Bowl and you did it. It's fantastic. Really handling all the food and beverage for a Super Bowl, that's not an easy task to be able to tackle that. That's got to be something that you think is sort of a benchmark in your career. And as Jerry pointed out, you accomplished that not only on your own, but through partnerships and certainly by being a great leader. But what resonates the most when you think back to that time for you? What really helped you achieve that level of success?
I am sitting here kind of just getting a little emotional, and not in a good way though, because it was definitely a game changer in my career. I think that doing Super Bowl and being part of the team to execute all the food and beverage for that type of event is milestone. Like it's huge.
It's huge. You talked earlier about not giving yourself.
I'm sitting here in awe because I'm like, wow, you really did that, right?
And you were talking earlier about not giving yourself credit or enough credit, and that's the first thing that comes to mind when you say, hey, I told my dad I was going to do Super Bowl and I did it. How many people have been fortunate enough to be able to achieve that level of success where they could head that up? I mean, that's like I said, it has to be a proud moment.
Absolutely. It definitely has. And I think, again, like I get goosebumps thinking about it because it was a game changer for my career, and in good ways, in a great way. You know, I obviously made tons of relationships, and that is planning at its finest. So that is, you know, working with other vendors and other partners, and networks. And I mean, just thinking about it, and it took a team, it took a village of us, and we knocked it out the park, and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And I think back to planning for that, and not only planning for the Super Bowl, which was a major event, but still doing day-to-day events and whatnot at the stadium. That can't stop, because you're still in planning mode for the a million events that we did. I mean, that was a game changer opportunity for me. When I say it was, you know, a lot of people don't know this, we would do a private event on a Saturday night, flip the field to do a soccer game Sunday afternoon. It was mind-boggling. We'd be in the stadium at like 4 a.m. and I'm looking at the conversion people, and I'm like, if people only knew what really went into this, and I can't say for other stadiums how crazy it can be or how crazy it was, but for MBS, and with that being the #1 stadium in the world last year, and still to this day, it was something out of this world.
Wow. Well, you know, I think it is something that is just remarkable. And I think, to your point, a lot of people don't know what go into it. And it takes a great leader to be able to achieve it. And it certainly takes a great team to be able to execute. But, you know, leadership is important there as well, sort of aligning the stars and making sure that you achieve success in partnership with those folks. And so, you know, switching gears here, you know, we talked about your career and we talked about the highs. You know, let's talk about some of the challenges that you may have faced over the course of your career. You know, we'd love to hear a little bit more about those challenges and how you overcame them. Specifically, you know, what do you think was unique to you being a female, certainly in leadership, but also a female of color in leadership?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that, as I look back over the course of the 20 years and seeing how things have changed, trends have changed, I think one thing that's always been a struggle for me, and I wouldn't even say a struggle, but an adversity in a sense, would be, you know, just like you said, being a woman of color in a more male dominated industry, especially coming from sports and entertainment, and oftentimes in catering, it's in a hotel leadership role perspective, really having to set myself apart. And, you know, whether that's coming from, you know, being underpaid, you know, not getting the same title as a male counterpart of mine, that knowing that we have the same level of education, if not me having more, or the same level of experience. That I think that happens more often than people think it does. So things like that have probably been the biggest challenges for me, and how I've overcome them is now, again, in my latter years, really just asking for what I want and asking questions. And again, someone can say yes or they can say no, but what I don't do is not put myself out there and ask those questions, and know that I have enough. My experience speaks for itself. You know, my experience, my education, all of that, and it really does speak for itself. And I know my worth now, I think a little bit more. And I think as women, we get nervous when the salary question comes up, or we kind of, you know, lowball ourselves sometimes just because of that. But, you know, now, and like I said, in my latter years, I'm learning how to really be more assertive in what I know I'm worth, and, you know, going after opportunities and knowing my worth as far as like salary, experience, education, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad you point that out. And I think that it's important for others to know that, right? And to achieve that level where you know your worth, you know certainly what questions to ask, and honestly, what questions shouldn't be asked. Because if you think a question shouldn't be asked to a male, or a guy, then certainly it shouldn't be asked of a woman as well, right? I
Right.
think everyone should be on an even playing field when it comes to opportunities that exist. I want to point out, I read an article that was written where you were obviously the focal point, and it talked about your superpower and always being the same Joy. And it
Yeah.
sounds like that that comes across in what you're saying here, just always being authentic and knowing your worth, always excel at everything you do. And so again, very much inspiring to me, and I'm sure it'll be inspiring to others to hear how you've achieved success and overcome some of the challenges along the way.
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that. I wrote that down when I was just doing prep and kind of getting myself ready for our chat today. And I can't say that more. Like you're going to get the same joy talking to you guys that I would talk if I was talking to Arthur Blank. And that's kind of the analogy I always use, because I just think that is that's what sets me apart. Like that's what makes joy. And I think that being true to yourself, being resilient. I had some, challenges. And so back in 2014, as we were talking about just kind of some challenges and things of that nature, I lost my mother and my grandmother in a span of 3 months, and had to pivot and kind of get out of corporate America and just really figure some things out. As I'm an only child, so it's just me kind of dealing with all of these adversities that can't happen in 2014. But in the midst of that, a concierge company, I started my own business, and went through the challenges of starting a business and being an entrepreneur. And that is probably to this day one of my greatest highlights of my life, is just being able to kind of step out on faith and do something different, and still be able to sustain for my family and that sort of thing, which was really exciting and encouraging. And I always look to that as it was a challenging moment, but the positive out of that was that I probably would have never done that or had that leap of faith to do that if that challenge had not happened.
Well, you've used the word resilient, and I hear it, I feel it, I see it, even as you talk through, your personal challenges and even what you encountered over the course of your career, sort of in the corporate environment. So really, again, I can't say it enough. It's impressive, and I hope an example to others as well.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. It's very exciting to be able to now look back at some of the challenges and some of the exciting things, and all the positives that have happened in my career. And yeah, I wouldn't change it. I would not change my story. Like I would not change.
They form part of who you are today. And I think
absolutely
all of, I think as we think about diversity and such a big topic today, and I think about my career, I'm pretty sure, Jerry, we've all had our challenges have made us stronger over the years, whether that's, a position that we were passed up on, or really just being treated differently in the workplace. We've all sort of experienced something like that. But it has been sort of the catalyst to where I am today. Or I think it's motivated me to work harder and be resilient, like you have, and show that I've said it earlier, just using your example, starting off as an admin, making those that are around me feel obligated to give me a shot and give me the opportunity to do more.
Yes.
In the face of sort of those challenges, that was my reaction: is I'm gonna prove to them that I'm worthy of these opportunities. I'm gonna prove it through my work. I'm gonna say I want to move up, but I'm gonna prove it through my work and through my actions, my passion, how I carry myself. And it's evident that you've done the same over the course of your career as well.
Definitely. I second that.
No, right. Look, and I'll put a third on it. But
there you go.
I think it's just special, Joy, just to hear you talk about it, and how you talked about asking for what you want, right? And there's so many people that look at that and think about it and just think about it as something simple, but it really is something that a lot of people don't take the time to do. Express it, talk about it. You even use the word speak it into existence. And everything that you said, it just speaks to me. And the way I describe it is passion. Ramon said it as well. I can tell that you passionately pursue everything that you do. And honestly, to deal with that level of adversity is commendable. And you not only worked through it, but you started a business, and you were continued your assertiveness. You pivoted, I mean, all of this is just something very special that, again, as Ramon mentioned, I hope is viewed as an example to others of what's possible. If you just want it badly enough and you chase it and do the work, of course, you can definitely see it come to be. But that I want to jump into my next question here, and we've just talked about kind of over the course of your career the challenges that you face. But as you've and we've talked about this a little bit as well. But as you've been through this, you've been there, done that. You know, what would your recommendation be to someone who's seeking the same level of growth that you've seen in your career? What recommendations or suggestions would you have for them?
I go back to this all the time. I think, it's about, I think networking is key for people in our industry and younger people looking to really get ahead of the game and really put themselves out there. Also challenging. Like, I think that something I didn't do younger was challenge myself more. If there was an opportunity, a position that would have probably come up that may have known in the back mind, I know I could really do this, but my other side of my head was saying, I don't know if you really want to do that, but do it. Challenge yourself. Like, talk to your direct reports and find out, what I want to do this, and how can you help me get there? How can you help me get to this next role or this next position? Communicate, be vocal, express what you want, and be yourself. I think that that's really the key in a lot of hospitality and being successful, is just being yourself. And, again, I always say everyone cannot work in this industry, hands down. So like, if you can, your personality and being who you are will speak for itself. So those would probably be the things I would tell the younger Joi, to how to be successful and get into this industry.
That's a phrase or a comment that I make to all of our new associates when we onboard them right now. I said, we did not hire you because of what this piece of paper said you were, what you represented. We hired you for who you are. So be yourself, bring your personality into what you do, and that's how you will achieve success. And in our industry, that is so true. You can tell when you interact with someone that's just going through the motions,
Yeah.
as opposed to someone who really has a passion to do what they're doing and has really incorporated this, who they are into what they do. And that's,
Exactly.
we live in the South, right? You think about Southern hospitality. There's people who sort of live and breathe that, or sort of embody that so well. That have a place. I meet people on the street, and if I see that, I say, you should be in hospitality, you should be in hotels, you should be in restaurants.
I do that too.
Right?
Right.
We want them to be in our industry. And I think what we all have seen over the years, and I mentioned it with you as well, people kind of fall into the industry and then fall in love with the industry. We need more people to just give us a look. And I think because there are people that really have a passion to serve others. And if you have that, then this is where your home should be. You should find a home in hospitality, whatever sector of the industry you want to fall into. We'd love to have you. The doors are always open, because we know that you're going to have tremendous success. And it's evident that you share that same feedback with others, and helping them along their journey as well.
Oh, look, and I echo that, and it's great advice to your younger self and to any younger individuals out there that are looking to see the success that you've had. And to Ramon's point, we oftentimes come across folks that are going through the motions, and they can do the task, they can do the job, but those that stand out, those that are passionate about what they do, those are the individuals that see the growth that you've seen, because you passionately pursue it. You don't let anything get in your way. You set goals, just like you did with doing the Super Bowl. And then anyone who sets those targets and does the work can definitely reach those goals. So great advice to those that are looking to grow in the industry.
Hands down, Jerry. I told you were doing a job fair here in Atlanta with Kava a couple of weeks ago, and I work very closely with our talent and recruiting department, because we're developing a Howard University to get more college students to kind of go and fall into the field of hospitality. And one thing that I always tell people is, you can teach people hard skills, right? In our industry, you need those soft skills. Like, are you a nice person? Do you smile? Like, those just simple, just things that,
Yeah.
that I think sometimes people either overlook or put too much analytics on it. And, it's just, again, some people have it, some people don't.
It's
And
just
I
being
think
real. It's just
it's just
being
being real,
real.
right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Be yourself, be real.
Be real. All the hard skills, we can teach that. That's something that can be taught, how to use certain systems and how to do this and how to do that. It really just kind of boils down to the individual, and are they, do they have what it takes to be able, to serve people and to love this industry, and, give it their all and not just go through the motions, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've talked about, and you hit on this earlier, what our industry has been through, and it wasn't just. I mean, obviously, it's the entire country with this pandemic, with COVID, and how it's devastated our industry and forced a lot of organizations to either temporarily close, some permanently close, a lot of associates furloughed. For me in particular, I think our team, our members, our associates are the heartbeat of any organization, certainly of hotels. You can have a great location, a great looking product, but none of that means anything if you don't have the right people. So that was pretty impactful for me to see a lot of the folks go. Now we're at a point where everything is coming back, and the future looks bright. And honestly, it looks like business is going to come back with a vengeance, which is great. But what do you, I see the analytics. You probably see analytics on your side as well.
Yep.
What do you think the future of hospitality is at this point?
Very good question. And I think that it's going to be exciting to see where it goes. I do think that the hospitality world in general is just going to be, I think people are going to be a little bit more, what's the word? Not necessarily so jaded, but more appreciative of our industry, after this pandemic and everything. I also think that industries in the hospitality field are going to look to having more safety precautions, and what can we do to make our guests and the people that are coming into our homes, or whether we're going into their homes with off-premise catering, how do we make them feel comfortable? So that's a pivot that some industries will be able to do easily. And then there are some industries that will be a little bit difficult. And I speak from example from a Zoe's Kitchen standpoint. We had to pivot into like a box lunch style off-premise service versus a buffet style, which is what we would normally have been known for and was easy to execute. So we had to pivot. And I think that companies are going to have to start pivoting and thinking about the safety of guests and consumers and things of that nature. I also think that there are going to be some brands and some companies that are going to want to do incentivize employees to come back to work. Like, okay, now that, everything is kind of moving in the right direction, there are going to be different opportunities for employees to have better engagement, to excite them about coming back to work from the pandemic. So I think it's going to go a lot of different ways. I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the world getting back to what we last knew as normal. And I'm really excited to just see how companies put different procedures in place and measures in place so that everyone is safe from an employee standpoint to a guest facing standpoint. So it's exciting. I think it's going to come. I tell my team, be ready after Labor Day, because it's going to hit us like a ton of bricks if we're not ready.
You're right. And it's remarkable. And I don't know that we've all sort of gotten our arms around it yet, that we're at a point in history, and that's for the world, but certainly even for our industry. We're part of rebuilding everything you mentioned, the things that we're going to be doing differently moving forward. This will be a point where people reference and say, this is when this started, and this is why. I think, you're exactly right. People, and I mentioned this in one of the very first podcasts that we had when we started this during the pandemic, that we didn't know we almost felt like something was taken away from us. Obviously the pandemic hit us all hard, but as an industry, when we saw our associates be furloughed and we didn't have the good fortune of working in this industry every day and serving people, we felt like something was taken away from us. And so to your point, we're going to be, and I am already more very much appreciative of what this industry means to me, and more importantly, what the people within it mean to me. And I think all of us, that are fortunate to have already gotten back into it, even in the midst as we kind of transition out of this pandemic, see that, we feel it every day. Safety certainly are hands down. You're right. There are certain things that we learned during the pandemic that we're like, you know what, we should be doing this all the time. We should have been doing this beforehand. And so those procedures, those methods of how we execute within our business are going to stick around for a long time, and we're going to be better because of it. The associate piece that you hit on is so important. I think not only incentivizing them, but really focusing on, hey, what is the culture of your place of employment, and how do you make it special in such a way that associates want to work with you, and work in your organization. I think we always focus on that, but now I think it's going to be just the importance there is sort of elevated to new heights. And so I really agree with you 100%. We're going to see this industry boom here very soon. It's going to look different for some, especially those behind the scenes. It's going to look very different. I think it's going to be all positive, and it's going to come back with a vengeance. I mean, the business outlook looks great. Everyone's ready to get out. Organizations are ready to start holding events again, and certainly that's great on your end, and certainly on ours as well.
Definitely. It's going to be exciting, and we're just looking forward to seeing how it happens. And, like I said, I tell my team, we got to start looking at the pipeline. Let's fill the pipeline for quarter 3 and quarter 4. We've had a great, Q1 and Q2, but really looking to see what the business trends are going to look like once we get outside of September. So I'm excited to see it as well too. I think, like you said, from the back of house perspective, it's going to look a little different. Front of house perspective, the same. It's going to look different as well too, but
yeah.
I think it'll all be good changes coming.
Yeah. Well, look, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today and allowing us to hear a little bit more about your story, and more importantly, have others hear your story so that they can understand exactly, how they can redirect their path, or really validate their path for growth, because you've had tremendous growth. And as I've mentioned a couple of times here, an example to many others. So thank you. Congratulations for everything you've accomplished over the course of your career. And it seems like there's much more ahead for you over the course of your career in terms of growth. So we appreciate you joining us today. Thank you once again for joining us for another episode of the Hospitality Twins. We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Joi Alexander. Jerry and I certainly did. It was impressive to hear of her experience and also of her story, not uncommon to our industry, where someone could start off as a catering administrative assistant in a hotel environment and go on to overseeing food and beverage sales for an entire Super Bowl. Truly impressive. If you'd like to find Joi, you can find her on LinkedIn, Joi Alexander. And we hope to join you next week again with a new episode of the Hospitality Twins. Until then, take care.